Hey everyone, so grateful for your continued support and encouragement as we prepare to move and launch Voyage Church. Man, it is an exciting thing. It's also scary as our whole team prepares to take a faith step and to move to a city to launch this church. But our heart is to invest in people's lives for long periods of time. We want to see people follow Jesus, not for a season, not for just a little bit or a few years. We want to see people do this for life. And so that's what we're going to do. And we're just grateful that you're supporting us and following along on the journey. We've been on the road the past 3 weeks, connecting with some churches, also gathering with our team and recording some stuff that God's put on our hearts. And Shauna and I were just talking about maybe we just start sharing with you guys some things God's been speaking as what we would call a now word, a word that God has just given us and speaking right now. And the other day I was praying and he actually gave me this word. If you've been following along, you've seen us post a couple things, and the word was just next is now. Next is now. And what I mean by that is for Shauna and I and our team, man, almost for the past 10 years, we've been talking about the next thing, the thing that's next. Like we knew there was this thing that God was calling us to. We didn't know the time or even the place, but we knew there was something next. And, you know, as I think about that, I know that there can be times in our lives where we're already so anticipating what's next that we miss what's right now. But see, where I am right now as we prepare to go launch Voyage Church, I am in next. What I was talking about 3 years ago by saying, man, the next thing that God has, my right now was my next. And as I just began to talk with the Lord and he began to just take me back to seasons prior to this one, what I realized is whatever I was doing then is what allows right now to happen. Really, what I mean by that is your next is now. So even you're like, man, I'm thinking I'm going to start this business. I'm going to do this thing. God's calling me to go to this place. Okay, that's what he's saying next. But that next is actually right now, because whatever you're doing now, whatever you're doing right at this very moment, the habits you have, the discipline that you have right now is truly what is next, because that is what you will take into that season. There's a couple scriptures God's given me on this subject. In Exodus chapter 14, this is where Moses is leading the people of Israel out of slavery from Egypt. And it says this, "But Moses told the people, 'Don't be afraid, just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you.'" That's a scripture we read, we stop there, and we're like, wow, look what God has next for the Israelites. He's bringing them into freedom. The Lord's going to fight for them, right? And he even says, the Egyptians you see today, you'll never see them again. And then the Lord said to Moses, this is the rest of the scripture. We have to read it all. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to get moving. Pick up your staff and raise your hand over the sea. Divide the water so that the Israelites can walk through the middle of the sea on dry ground." First, yes, God was going to do a miracle, absolutely. But that miracle did not just have the people standing still. There was something, yes, God was about to do something next, but there was something they had to do right now that was going to bring them into what was next. Tell the people to get moving. Look, there had to be some movement, and then God was going to show up. God said, "Moses, raise your staff." The waters were going to part, right? So your next is now. What are you doing right now? The next thing that God had for them was their now, to take the step, to step out. And literally as they stepped out, the waters parted and they touched dry ground. Your next is now. And Joshua, this was the guy who was the successor of Moses. It says in Joshua chapter 1 verse 3, "I promise you," the Lord speaks, "I promise you what I promised Moses. Wherever you set your foot, you will be on land that I have given you." So in other words, hey Joshua, I've got land that I've given you, but your next is now. Wherever you set your foot, you take the step. Whatever steps you're taking right now, whatever disciplines you have right now is what is bringing you into what's next. And the last scripture I have is this, Joshua 24:15. "But if you refuse to serve the Lord, then choose today whom you'll serve." And then he finishes that scripture by saying, "But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord." See, Joshua made a decision, and he was making a decision right then in his now that was actually going to bring him into what is next. Your next is now. What are you doing right now. And as I think back and just reminisce on all the places that God has taken our family and our team, preparing us for this season that we're now in, right? I always talked about next, but next is now. But really, it was the fact that 9 years ago, we decided to start a young adult ministry and to just go after the things of God, to love people really, really well. That Shauna and I and our whole team made the decision, we're just going to continue to follow Jesus. We're going to continue to be planted in the house of the Lord. No matter what happens, no matter if we have a bad church experience, we're going to stay because our next is now. Where we are right now is because of the decisions we made then. And we were talking about what was next, but we were doing something in that moment. Wherever God has you right now, this season matters. These decisions matter. The way that you press in, the way that you're sensitive, the way that you love people, it matters right now because your next is now. I believe God has something for you next. I believe there's more next for us and our team as we go to launch this church. But what we're doing right now matters. Man, don't overlook right now. God's doing something significant, and I can't wait to see what he has for you. I can't wait to see what he has for our team as we step out to launch Voyage Church. We love you guys. Thank you so much for support and encouragement.